Hello, hello, hello. We are back on Air Talk, week 2 of Ask an Attorney. I feel so special today. Um, I went through a lot to get her on the show today. Uh, this
You
is wait,
did?
I'm not gonna say her name yet. I'm just gonna tell you what I had to go through. So we're gonna talk about privacy today, but I want to talk about Jules Mezher first. Um, Jules actually got off the boat today. She was on a yacht earlier today to actually meet me here. I actually called her 3 times. She's like, Ed, if you call me one more time, yes, I said I was going to be here. But this is a very, very special series because I always want to talk about things that people need or subjects that we need to talk about. So today's subject is called privacy. Okay. And this is Jules Mezher. She is with Chicago Land and Title
Close.
Trust Company.
No,
What
but
I
close.
said,
Chicago Title Land Trust
same
Company.
thing.
Same thing, but not at
Same
all.
thing.
I got it. Yeah.
So again, we're with Air Talk. This is my second week on internet radio with and it's just been great. So guys, work with me. There's technical stuff I'm trying to work
You're
with.
doing great. You're doing a
I
good
got
job.
the phone up, the plugs all plugged up. So Jules, let's just jump right in. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Cool. So my name is Jules, Julia Mezher. I'm an attorney. I specialize in real estate privacy. I'm trust counsel for a company called Chicago Title Land Trust Company. And what we do is we specialize in a product called a land trust, which keeps people's information off the public record and confidential when they purchase real estate, and provides an estate plan, an affordable estate plan for those that own real estate. So you and I have known each other for obviously quite some time, and you are literally the only man that I would get off a boat for, drive across the city to do an interview with on a Sunday.
I'm telling you.
So that's because I love you, and because you're doing such a great job with this radio stuff. So I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you having me. And because it's so pertinent for us to be speaking about privacy and protecting your assets in light of everything that's been going on, in the recent months with COVID and estate planning, and just making sure that our assets are safe and sound. So this is a very pertinent topic to be talking about, and I'm happy that we're bringing it to light.
And so, I mean, I've been talking to you about this like for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think I could talk about it myself.
Yeah.
But lots of my investor clients.
Yeah.
I actually sent over to you, and the reason is because there are when you buy a property, you don't want everybody to know.
Sure.
Who the owner is, right?
Yeah, for various reasons, right? And so I think all homeowners, when people buy real estate, a lot of times people don't realize that all the details of that real estate transaction are a matter of public record, right? Because at the end of a real estate transaction, there's a deed, and all that deed holds all the details of that real estate transaction. So as we've said before, the new home buyer, the purchase price, mortgage information, and once that the address, right? And so once that deed gets recorded in whatever county that transaction takes place, all the details of that transaction become a matter of public record.
So let me cut you off. So I want to say this. So you're saying that. So I go into I buy a house.
Yeah, you're buying $1 million mansion.
Man, what if I'm buying a house is $100,000?
Sure, you're buying a $50,000 house.
You buy the house, and now once that transaction is over, I can go into the internet.
Yeah,
and
so
find out
you
everything
don't
about
even
that transaction.
Yeah, so you don't need to have some like fancy real estate technology to find out about people's purchases, right? You can use something as simple as Google, type in a person's name, and it'll all their real estate transactions will pop up because all that information is a matter of public record. And so most home buyers and investors don't know that that happens. And so we don't know what we don't know, right? And then they don't know that there's a way to prevent that from happening. And now people want to keep their information private for, a myriad of reasons, right? Physical safety being at the top of the list.
So I want to get on that safety part.
Okay.
There's a story I want you to tell.
Okay.
I know it's going to shock people.
Yeah.
But tell them a story about the gentleman who owned a property that came to the city, and the two gentlemen hurt him. He was
Oh,
owner.
yeah. So there was a gentleman, this happened maybe like 6 months ago. He lived in Rolling Meadows, but he owned an investment property in Inglewood. And his tenants knew him. So he did not have his property in a land trust. He didn't use a property management company. He managed the property himself, and that his tenants had direct access to him. And so they did not want to pay rent moving forward. So they plotted, and they told him that there was something wrong with the residence, and they asked him to come and take a look at it. So he did. He went over there, and while he was there, they came up from behind him and they knocked him out and they killed him, and then they threw him into a sewer. And the only reason that it was determined that they were the ones that did it is because their third roommate actually confessed. And then when they went to go to the gentleman's Google search, in the Google search, it said, how long will it take for a body to decompose in a sewer? So the gentleman, he was completely exposed, and right now, especially, everybody wants to own real estate, right? Everyone thinks that owning real estate is the way to get rich quick. And in some aspects it is, right? And so everybody wants to own property. Everyone wants to own multi-units. Everybody, wants to be a landlord. But oftentimes people aren't protecting themselves, in the ways that they should. There's certain steps that should be taken. And I'm a firm believer that your tenant should never have direct access to you. And then there are ways to go about that. And so it's just very important to educate yourself in all those ways so that you can make all the right decisions when you are investing in real estate and becoming rich.
Okay. So what's the process? So say, can I do this prior to closing, or does it always have to be after closing?
No. So you ideally, in an ideal world, you want to close directly into a land trust. And let's take a step back and talk about what a land trust actually is, right? So oftentimes when people hear the words land trust, their eyes kind of glaze over and they drool a little bit because it sounds very complicated, and it sounds like, well, I've been doing real estate for millions of years without it, so why start now if it's not broken? But because we've been so exposed because of social media and the internet, and because our information is all over the place, it is broke. So what a land trust is, it's very simple and easy. All a land trust is a private way of holding title to real estate. Okay. So on a deed, instead of it saying the home buyer being Julia Mezher or Ed Beavers, it would say that the home buyer is Chicago Title Land Trust number 12345. Okay. Now, a lot of clients will say, well, I don't want to put my property into a land trust because if my name is not on title, then I don't have any legal rights to the property. And that couldn't be any less correct, right? Because the trust is governed by a document called a trust agreement. And the trust agreements say who the beneficiary of the trust is, and the beneficiary of the trust is the homeowner. So the homeowner retains all legal rights and control to that property as if they were owning the property in their own name. And then that's when the estate planning end comes in. The trust allows you to name something called a contingent beneficiary. Okay. So in the event something happens to the beneficiary, the property automatically passes to who is the contingent. And that could be anybody. That could be your kids. It could be your family. It could be your best friend. And the property automatically passes them and allows them to avoid probate court. And so, people who are considering estate planning should work with individuals like yourself who are professionals in estate planning, and use products like land trust. Someone that doesn't need a sophisticated estate plan, their biggest asset is their real estate. A land trust is the ideal tool for estate planning.
So let's talk about, and I'm gonna get questions about this too. LLCs. So I had a person that called me up the other day. They say, Ed, what about LLCs? Yeah. So what is
the difference, or
what is an LLC, and why would you put in would you put it in straight into a land trust, or would you put it into an LLC first and then place it into a land trust?
Sure. So let's take one step back before that LLC, if you don't mind. Okay, so when we close on real estate, we want to close directly into the land trust so that our name never hits the public record. Okay. So we open up the trust and then we close directly into the land trust. Okay. Because we don't want Julia Mezher to ever be seen on the public record as owning that real estate. We just want Chicago Title Land Trust number 12345 to be that. Okay. So it would be the same thing with an LLC. So LLCs are a beautiful thing. Okay. An LLC should be utilized. LLCs are used for liability protection. If you're a real estate investor, then no property should ever be in your name, and property should always be in an LLC for liability protection. What LLCs do not provide you is they do not provide you privacy protection. So I can go on the Secretary of State website, type in the name of the LLC, 3 lines down, I'll see who the managing members of that LLC are, right?
Okay.
So they're great for liability protection, not for privacy protection. Land trust, great for privacy protection, don't provide you the same liability protection. So in today's day and age, it's not an either or situation. It's not an LLC or a land trust. Okay. It's an LLC and a land trust. Because we're so exposed, it's super important to be layering. So you make that LLC the beneficiary of the land trust. You get the privacy protection of the land trust. You get the liability protection of the LLC, and you close directly into the land trust with the LLC being the beneficiary of the trust.
So here's what I'm thinking. So people always say, "And how can I hide my property?" So say I have a lien. Okay.
Okay.
I have a lien, and the lien holder, they have gone to court, and now I have a lien, some type of credit lien.
Sure.
How can I protect? Um, can a land trust protect me from that lien holder? How
So
would that
if
work?
you're being sued, let's say Ed Beavers is being sued, which you would never be because you are a law-abiding citizen.
Of course.
That being said, if in the rare event you were to get sued and a judgment would be entered against Ed Beavers, but you don't have real estate in your own name, your property is in a land trust, right? Then that judgment doesn't automatically attach to their real estate because your real estate is not in Ed Beavers' name. Your real estate is in Chicago Title Land Trust number 12345. Now, if that real estate was in your name, that judgment and lien would automatically attach to your real estate. But since it is not, it does not automatically attach. Now, a collections attorney would then have to take additional steps to find out what assets you own, and then have to take additional steps to then attach that lien to the properties in the trust if they were to find the trust. So does a land trust prohibit people from attaching liens to the property? No. Does it make it a lot more challenging and time consuming and costly? Yes. Does it then oftentimes turn people away from even doing that? Yes.
Thank you. So I want to move into the first responder piece of this.
Sure.
So I had a client that I told you that called me the other day. He's a police officer.
Yeah.
Okay. He wanted the liability protection, and he wanted the privacy protection because he didn't want somebody that he had made just taken to jail look him up and try to find out where he lives in his property.
Yeah.
Is this something that would help with
Yeah. So, police officers are some of my biggest clients, right? When I used to work at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, I worked with police officers often. And when I would interview them, I would see that oftentimes police officers, they don't wear wedding rings. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And the reason that they don't wear wedding rings is because they don't want the people that they're pulling over knowing that they have a family. But what they do wear is a badge with a star number. So if you were to pull me over and I were to call any precinct and give them your badge number, they would have to tell me that police officer's name. Now, if I Google that police officer's name, I'm going to find out his home address. Now, if I show up at his home address, I'm going to find out if he has a family, whether he's wearing a wedding ring or not.
Yeah.
Right? And so in order for first responders to be able to protect themselves from things like that, it's essential that they protect their privacy. And so they should be closing directly into land trusts, right? And additionally, a lot of first responders, whether they're police officers, firefighters, EMTs, a lot of these people do a lot of real estate investment. And so I actually had a police officer call me several months back and say, "Hey, Julia," and mind you, there's 3 sides to every story, right? There's your side, there's my side, and there's the truth. Right? So
I love how those words.
So the police officer called me and said, "Hey, Julia, the situation is this. I was chasing a defendant with my police car. The defendant ran into my police car, and now he is suing me in civil court for damages." The defendant's story is the police officer was chasing him with his police car, rammed into him with his police car, and now there are damages, and he is suing the police officer. The police officer didn't understand why he was being sued personally and why the police office was not being sued. And my first question to him was, "Well, how many pieces of real estate do you own?" Right? He said, "I own 4 pieces of real estate, totaling, let's say, $1.5 million. My next question is, are they in your own personal name? The answer was yes. Now, prior to coming over to Chicago Title Land Trust Company, I did personal injury work. And the first thing that I would do when deciding whether or not I was going to sue somebody was I ran an asset search on them. right? So if I run an asset search on you, real estate being usually the biggest asset that
Run
most
on me
people,
because you're not.
I would never on you.
You run on me, you're not gonna find it.
I never on
I'm
you.
just saying, you run on me, you no money, no money here,
no monies,
Go
no
ahead.
monies. And that's how you want to look. And that's how you want to look. You would be the ideal client because if I run an asset search on you and nothing pops up, as an attorney, it doesn't really make sense for me to then spend my time and resources suing you, getting a judgment entered against you, and then it takes you 15 years to pay out on that judgment. I need to get paid, right? And if you can't pay out, I don't get paid. But as an attorney, if I run an asset search on you and you have 4 pieces of real estate attached to your name, totaling $1.5 million, of course I'm going to litigate. Because when I get a judgment entered against you, you have assets for me to come after, right? So we want to be very rich, but we want to appear very poor to the general public because we don't want to become a target for frivolous litigation.
So speaking of getting paid, I had a couple of questions that came up.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
The first question, well, first of all, I'm going to take this short break where this is Ed Talk on Intellectual Radio. You can definitely call in and ask questions with Jules. And the number is 708-223-8953. The number is 708-223-8953. So going back to speaking of getting paid.
Okay, let's get paid.
The question was, how much does this cost to get a land trust?
$1 million.
$1 million. Okay. All the phones hung up. You see, it got silent in the room. Nobody said
just shut the lights off. They're like, our show's over. Wrap it up.
Let's go home.
No, the price is very affordable, but it varies. It varies based on the market value of the property and if the property is your primary residence or an investment property. But just to give an example, if the property is your primary residence, $500,000 and below, it is $200 to open up the trust. And then there's a yearly fee to maintain the trust. And that's $99 a year.
$99.
That's it. I spend more money on Starbucks every 2 weeks than it costs to have a land trust for privacy, asset and liability protection, and estate planning every single day.
I wasn't going to say Starbucks, but we're going to go with Starbucks.
I said it. I said it.
So, yeah. So, I want to make sure. Guys, you can call in 708-223-8953. So, I have this little section that's called, I've been doing. This is my second week of doing
I'm getting nervous.
We're going to ask a couple of questions.
I'm getting nervous.
Don't try to look at my questions.
I'm getting nervous, Ed.
The name of this section is called What's Your Preference?
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to ask you the questions.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 choices. You have to make one choice.
Do I just make the choice and no explanation, or is there an explanation with the choice?
Attorneys, we
make everything complicated.
Attorneys are some of my worst clients. I'm going to tell you. Because you guys
really?
Oh my God, you guys ask 1,000 questions because you're so smart.
Okay.
So here we go. Oprah or Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama.
Football or basketball?
Basketball.
Chicago or New York?
Chicago over everything.
Okay. Tina Turner or Diana Ross?
Tina Turner. No. Diana Ross.
I had a bet with somebody that you would do that. I'm serious.
What? That I would say Tina and then go back?
That you would kind of straddle the fence a little bit?
Because at first I was rolling down the river and then I was like, no, Diana's a legend. What do we? I mean, they're both legends. Okay, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Okay. City or the suburbs?
City.
Okay, here we go. Jamaica or Aruba?
I've never been to Aruba. Jamaica.
Android or iPhone?
That's a silly one. iPhone. Ooh. Who even has an Android? People even use Androids? As what? As paperweights? To leverage tables?
Okay. We got a call. We're going to take this call right now.
This is about the Android.
Caller, what's your name and where you calling from?
Chicago.
Okay. What's your question with Jules over here?
I got a question about special needs trust. We have a family member who's disabled, and their elder is going to be leaving this earth soon, and we're worried that she'll lose her disability benefits if they leave her or anything. And we heard that there's something called a special needs trust.
So a special needs trust is a completely different tool, and that's probably a really great question for an estate planning attorney. And so if that's something that you're interested in and want further detail on, I'm definitely happy to put you in contact with one of the estate planning attorneys that I work with, and they can dive a little bit deeper into special needs trust for you.
Okay.
So if you want to leave your phone number and name, and then I'll be able to shoot you an email tomorrow with some contacts in regards to special needs trust.
Work. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a great question.
That was a good question.
Wow.
Estate planning is essential right now. No one ever thought that things like this would be happening in the world, and they are. So we got to protect ourselves. You got to be proactive instead of reactive.
Hello, caller. What's your name and where you're from?
Hi, my name is Lynn, and I'm from Oak Lawn.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Great topic. I'm a retired financial person, so I worked with trust. So this is very fascinating. I'm glad you're publishing this interview. This is great.
Thank you.
Question. For those people who are looking to create a land trust quickly, what's the time frame? Are we talking, does it take years for that? Does it take days? What's the range of time?
It depends, right? So if you're doing a closing and you're closing directly into the trust, it's the same amount of time as it would be if you were closing in your own name. If you already currently own your property and you're looking to put it into a trust at this given time, it takes days. So it's a very simple process. The forms, the trust agreement is a one-page form. The deed is a one-page form. You simply get that to us. We actually take care of getting the water cert and get it recorded for you. So the whole process takes days.
Okay, follow-up question. What if I want to sell? I have a property in land trust and I want to sell.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
You simply deed the property out of the trust to whoever is buying it. So it'd be the same exact way as if you're selling it from your own name, except we would draft the deed, the trustee's deed, to draft it to deed it out of the trust to the new buyer.
Great, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Lynn. And I want to kind of go on that question.
Yeah.
My question would be, so when it's sold and you list the product, so say this is the same client who has a property that's already in the land trust.
Yeah.
What would that process be? So I'll call a real estate broker, tell them that I want to sell my property, then tell them into the trust. So the name would never be
correct.
public.
Yeah. I mean, everything would be handled with the trust name, because the deed that you purchased it in and the deed that you hold it in doesn't have your name on it. It has the land trust number on it. So you couldn't sell it from your own name even if you wanted to. We as a land trust company would have to deed the property out of the trust to the new buyer. Your name would never, ever hit the public record, which means that people would not know that, let's say you sold a property for cash, and this happens all the time. Let's say you sold a property for cash, you made all this money, all this equity in it. No one would ever know that you got that.
Okay.
And so oftentimes people even put their properties into land trust so that they can sell it out of the trust, so that people won't know that they got equity from the sale.
Another question. I'm a parent, okay? And I know that I have 3 or 4 different children, right? And I know that if something happened to me, I would want it to go through. I actually wouldn't want them to have to deal with it directly.
Yeah.
I would want that deed transferred directly to them.
Yeah.
Is that?
And that's exactly what the trust is for in terms of the estate planning, what we had talked about, having a contingent beneficiary, that the property would automatically pass to the kids, however you want it to be divided, right? And so, and the beautiful thing about a land trust is that whatever happens within the trust is private. So in the event that something, let's say, God forbid, but let's say one of your kids developed a drug problem or a gambling addiction, and you don't want them to be able to inherit that property, you can amend the contingent beneficiary at any given time, and the general public will never know that you did that. Whereas with other estate planning tools, because they are recorded documents visible for the public, everyone would be able to see that. And the beautiful thing about land trusts as well is, let's say, your kids are your contingent beneficiaries and one of your children has creditors chasing them. When the property passes to your kids, it never actually goes into their name. It stays within the land trust. So their creditors will never see that they've inherited another piece, that they've inherited a piece of real estate in order to attach the lien to that property. Whereas if they receive that property in their own name, the creditors would be able to see that, and then they would be able to immediately attach that lien.
Okay. So tax tax bill included. So the tax bill would still have the trust name.
Correct. Because it would never
well.
leave the trust. It's just that the kids would then go from being contingent beneficiaries to beneficiaries. And then they would be able to say who their contingent beneficiaries would be.
So the reason I asked that question, so I used to be in the mortgage business.
Yeah.
So someone would pass.
Yeah.
And then the house would be transferred to them.
Yeah.
But sorry, they would have to purchase the property, and that person maybe didn't have proper credit to get it changed into their name.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big problem.
Sure.
Where they wanted to refinance, it was like, there was nowhere to go. So I think having this in the trust, you're gonna transfer that deed.
Yep.
To the system directly. So I'm gonna switch it up.
We switching it
For a
up?
moment, we're gonna switch it up.
Okay.
So my friend here,
I'm afraid with where we're going.
She
with this.
also has. Wait, hold on. Oh, here we go. I want to ask this question first before we go there.
Sure.
This is from Preston Brown. His question is: what happens if all of the contingent beneficiaries die before the primary beneficiary dies?
So then the primary beneficiary can then amend whoever the contingent beneficiaries will be. So let's say you were I don't want to use you as an example, but let's say Jane Smith was my contingent beneficiary and she were to pass. Then I can then choose any other contingent beneficiary. As the main beneficiary, I can amend my trust and choose any other contingent beneficiary.
So wait, let me go back. So you were about to say that I was your contingent. I mean, you can tell everybody. Yes, I am a contingent beneficiary.
Everything I own, Ed,
goes to me.
Goes to you. This is my announcement that everything I own is now going to Ed Beavers. This is an official announcement. I'm just this is actually why we're doing this today. No one cares about land trust, but this is just me saying everything I own is going to Ed.
I'm just saying. So thanks, Preston, for that question. So again, you can either put your questions in the chat, or you can call 708-223-8953. So going back to this other business venture.
Yes.
So I'm traveling down 75th Street, right?
Yes.
And I see this DJ. I see all these bikes outside.
Yes.
And I mean, people are humping on the bike. On the bike.
They are humping on the bike.
And then look who I see in the front leading the class.
It is me.
The one and only.
It is I.
So talk about your business.
Yes.
What it is.
Yes.
What was your motivation for getting into that business?
Sure. So I own a spin studio. It is called By Kettle. My location's in Chatham on 75th and Calumet. We've been there for 2.5 years. And it's been a very interesting experience. Especially in the past several months in light of COVID, the city has put a lot of restrictions on us. And so we had to get innovative. And so we dragged all our bikes outside instead of having it inside, spaced them all out, per COVID guidelines. And we now have bikes on the block. And so, financial health is very important, but no one cares about financial health if you don't have your physical health. And I think we've all learned that in the past several months, right? And so I promote health in all facets of life. And so physical health being one of them. I myself have lost 100 pounds. When I graduated from law school.
Wait. Super producer, can I say damn on the radio? Okay.
Can you bleep it?
I said it. I already said it.
You
Sorry.
just said it.
Sorry.
You just said it, man. Jeez.
Okay.
Beep.
Darn.
Beep.
Okay.
Beep.
Darn.
Beep.
Bleep. 100 pounds.
Beep. Go
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Actually, when I graduated from law school, I got some LASIK eye surgery. It was a botched up job, and I went blind very quickly. And so I gained an enormous amount of weight at that time. I fell into a very deep depression. Had to get several surgeries after that to restore or help stop me from going further blind. So I'm actually legally blind. And I kind of realized that life is short. Things pop up in our lives that we would never think that they would, i.e. COVID, right? And so I realized that I had to really get my health together because we don't ever know. So I started working out. I have a business partner. He opened up a spin studio in Humboldt Park. I came and took a class. And, he's like, Jules, you're like a little 5-foot dictator. You're loud as heck. See, producer, I said heck. You're loud as heck. So you should teach here. I had no idea how to teach spin. He trained me for 30 days. I started teaching, developed a following, and decided I wanted to open up my own space. And what better area to do that in than the South Side in Chatham. And the community has been amazing. I'm so blessed. Chatham has been wonderful. The whole South Side has been amazing. And so, we're just about transformation and breakthroughs, love, giving people an outlet. We're therapy. We're so much more than just weight loss. It's therapy and transformation. And oftentimes, you have a rough day. I walk into that studio feeling one type of way and I leave feeling something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, tell you, I am a small business lover. I love people going to small, business by themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it is very rewarding.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you woke up at like 1 or 2 in the morning? I'm gonna tell you how I felt that day when we just had chaos in the city.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my stomach just dropped when I saw that all these businesses were getting hit by looters.
I felt sick. I felt sick because not so much because of the physical establishment, right? Because things can be repaired and fixed and, with time and resources. I felt sick because we had been closed, right? The city shut us down mid-March and we were closed all the way through June. And sorry, it makes me emotional talking about it now because my students would reach out to me in those months just saying how poor of a mental space they were in because they didn't have this outlet, right? And what weight gain does, an unhealthy lifestyle does, it puts you in a bad mental space. Their anxiety was up, their depression was up. They were talking to me about thoughts of suicide because they didn't have me as an outlet. And so when we were finally able to reopen, in smaller class sizes, but we were finally able to open it. And I was finally able to be present. Doing classes online is one thing and it's beautiful. And we were doing virtual classes, but being in front of people and feeling the energy of group fitness and feeling the encouragement of everyone around you, that's a completely different world. And so we were finally able to get up and running. And then I wake up literally one day before we're supposed to open up. And I don't know if we're going to be able to. And what was so magical about that experience for me was that my students called me and they said, we're posted in front of your studio. Don't come here. I got you. And they were. And I checked my security camera and they were posted. And no one was going to be messing because we call it home. When I talk to my students, I don't say, are you coming to buy kettle? I said, are you coming home? We miss you coming home. And they say, I miss home. I want to come home. And so this is equally their business and their home, like it is my business and my home. And so they stood for it. And, we were so blessed to be not touched. The businesses around us were, and we were not. And, the next day, it didn't matter. Come hell or high water, I was opening. We dragged those bikes outside and we rode like our lives depended on it because it does.
What I found also is, I mean, that's great. I love hearing it every time you talk about it.
I know.
But
it makes me emotional.
I want everybody else
I'm a crybaby. I'm a crybaby about it. Just love it.
So, and we had this conversation about this too, about business insurance.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of misinformation that goes on, right? And a lot of people just hear something and they run with it. And they don't take the time to really fully educate themselves on a lot of different things, right? And so it's very important for those that are educated to then spread that education around so people really understand what's what, right? And one of the biggest misconceptions that was going on that was very, it angered me, to be honest, is that people were saying, well, it doesn't matter because insurance will cover the damage. Businesses will all reopen because insurance will cover the damage. And the reason that they were saying that is because they heard someone else say it, and they heard someone else say it, and they heard someone else say it, and then that spread like wildfire. But they didn't take into consideration many things. And I mean, obviously, better as an insurer, and we had this conversation. It was so devastating because, first of all, we're in a pandemic. Our businesses, we were forced to close down for months. And so many people couldn't afford insurance in that time. And what happens, Ed, when you can't afford that insurance and you don't make that payment? It lapses. And
you have none.
And you have none. So now your businesses windows are shattered, everything's stolen, and you don't have insurance.
And you don't have any money.
Because we've been closed for months, right? Or the businesses who, maybe got insurance, but that insurance doesn't cover what? What could insurance not cover?
Window breakage. They could have taken a high deductible to keep the premium down.
Right.
So some of those businesses may have taken a deductible as high as $10,000.
And they don't have the $10,000, right?
And so their claim could have only been like $3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of the policies may not have covered looting. They may have covered personal property being taken, but maybe they didn't cover looting.
Yeah.
All these different things that actually could have happened during that could happen, and that's why it was so disturbing to keep hearing people say, "That's all right, they have insurance," and it was the small businesses that kept getting hit.
And it was, so when you talk about the devastation of business law, I'm not referring to the big establishments, right? But as a small business owner, I know that I've poured everything I have into that business and continue to pour and re-pour and re-pour everything I have into this business. And so, I know that I was calling my insurance company to see what I didn't even know what my coverage
Nobody does.
Covers.
Nobody does.
Right? You just buy the insurance and then I'm too busy picking out paint for the walls and light fixtures, right? And so I remember panicking, calling, trying to figure out what my coverage covered. And I know that when I was speaking to other small business owners, their coverage did not cover the looting that was going on. And and that's why we had to go see a lot of these GoFundMes and, people raising money because they did not have the money. And a lot of these businesses could not reopen. They could not sustain the damages and they could not reopen. They will not reopen. And so it's just so important. It's just so, a lot of times people don't want to talk about things because they're taboo or they don't feel good, right? Like estate planning or like business or, business setup, or they're embarrassed because they don't know or whatever. The truth is nobody knows until you learn, until you speak to someone that knows, right? And so it's just so important to reach out to people like yourself, who's an expert in insurance, in the game forever, a giant, killing it. And to really just say, hey, Ed, I need you to handhold me through this process. And you're so good at doing that, right? And you're always accessible, always reachable, and be handhold through, hey, I'm opening up a new business and I need to be insured and make sure that I'm covered. Can you walk me through it?
Yeah, and it's definitely part of the plan. So there's no such thing as a partial plan. Either you have a plan or you don't. There's no in between. Now, can that plan change along the way? Of course it is.
And it should, and it will.
And I always tell people, the way you plan, I got a few more minutes. The way you plan now is going to change. So say you have a 5-year-old now, or say you don't have any kids. When you get kids, now your plan changes again. So you're always amending that plan, but you have to have a plan.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing. I don't care what it is. And also that plan can't be in your head. It needs to be on paper, because if not on paper, it's not a plan. It's a thought.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I'm kind of going to end our show with today. It was great today. I'm glad
I appreciate
now you can go get back on the boat. Thank you for getting off the boat. This is Ed Talk. This is an Axley attorney series. Next week is what that's the 6th.
Next week is the
6th. So next week we have another dynamic attorney that's gonna be talking about. She's gonna be talking about health law, wills, estate planning, with this COVID going on and people in the hospital and families not able to speak to their family members, and things have to happen.
Yeah.
So who's gonna make it if that loved one is in the hospital?
Right.
All right. So that's what we're gonna be talking about next week. So Jules, I want to say thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
And I always end the show with, you haven't watched it before, so I always end the show with a peace sign.
Oh, with a peace sign?
Peace sign.
All right.
Peace.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.